Hey everybody, welcome to the R&R show, episode 97. And this episode is brought to you by Phalanx Games, publisher of Lords of Heaven.
Take command of one of the four medieval powers. Relentless crusaders, bent on conquering the Holy Land. Bold Seljuks, eager to expand their new empire. Wealthy Byzantines, hoping to restore their glory. Or the proud Caliphate, fighting to keep Jerusalem in their hands. Expand your domain. Construct buildings. And develop your holdings. Gain new followers. Increase your military presence. And make good use of powerful events. Collect tribute from your lands and benefit from the generosity of pilgrims. Fight for control over the Holy Land, gain military and financial support, and begin your campaign. Show your diplomatic touch and appeal to others for support, and hope your foe won't be as persuasive as you are. You won't always have allies to support you. Both leaders devise their tactics and gather their forces. The battle ensues. The line is broken. Do you have what it takes to rally and beat back the enemy? Not today, it seems. But the ultimate triumph is not always won on the battlefield. Skillful politics and cunning diplomacy may instead open the gates to heaven. Pledge now.
And hello everybody to the R&R show, episode 97. My name is Ruel Gaviola, joined as always by my co-hosts with the most, Chris and Ray. Chris, Ray, how are you, friends?
Doing great.
Fantastic.
Some hidden gems.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be crowned the Lord of Heaven. I've always known it was a title that I wanted, and now I can get it for my own.
There you go.
Yes, and it is Chris, folks. I want to thank Phalanx Games again for sending us over that wonderful preview of Lords of Heaven. Be sure to check out the links below to back and possibly back the Kickstarter for Lords of Heaven. Also in the show notes below, you'll see a link to the extended episode, extended edition of this episode, where we talk about all kinds of stuff during the pre-show and post-show, and the top 10 hidden gems that you're going to see right now of 2023. We're going to have a bunch more we're going to talk about after the show itself, so be sure to click on that link for the extended edition. And you may also want to check out the pre-show there, because Chris shared a photo that was sort of disturbing, and you need to see it, folks.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah,
and I can't share it again now, because it's a one-time thing. It disappeared into the ether.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Into the air. They vanished.
Yes. I'm excited about this show. I love hidden gems. As someone, all three of us, we do a lot of stuff, content, and in the industry, we see a lot of games, and I like sharing those games that may be a little bit off the beaten path, under the radar, as you say, and it's exciting because a lot of these games, they're fantastic games, just for whatever reason, people don't know about them, or maybe they do and they don't appreciate them as much as we do. Before we get going, was there any criteria you want to talk about, Chris or Ray, about how you took on this list and how you came up with your games?
I mean, I struggle with this a little bit just because I feel like, especially with my top of 2023, I felt like they were kind of, I mean, I think I said game of the year for 2023 was Drapolter. Like, it was kind of a hard thing for me to go back.
I saw Drapolter.
I picked a really obvious pick for 2023. It's like, no, I picked Drapolter. I picked a game where you drop things and that's the whole game. Yeah. I feel like I have a weird barometer for what a hidden gem is. I feel like I take some pride in being a peddler of odd board games,
Yes.
then I don't know if these on my list would qualify as hidden gems. These were just, I kind of took it as like games that didn't make it into my final cut because I feel like I haven't heard much about any of these games. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's an interesting what people consider. We live in such little pockets, right? Where one person might see a lot of marketing for a certain game that just never crosses someone else's path. So I don't know. It's a little subjective, but I'm excited to see what people brought to the table.
Nice. What about you, Chris?
I like it. I like it being 2023 and us like doing it later enough into 2024 that you've had a bit of time to reflect and see how these have panned out. And so with that, like I used BGG mostly. Whenever I talk about hidden gems, I just say, okay, whatever's above 1,000 on BGG. Anything that hit in that category for me, I was like, I can put that in because they're not ranked in the top 1,000 board games on Board Game Geek. And I certainly have less than 1,000 board games myself. I have 998. I do not. Yeah, so that's how I kind of approached it. And then going through, I was like, oh, these are the games that I liked that are sort of lower on the list. And so it gives me a chance to talk about them. My number one is something that I like. I gave like a 4.5 out of 5, but I'm going to change that today on this show to a 5 out of 5. Right. Wow, watch out.
Yes.
So get excited, everyone, for these numbers to tick up.
Yes.
So that's what I used. I used BGG mostly. Made sure it was over 1,000. I didn't consider anything that was lower than that, or higher than that, depending on how your brain is thinking.
Yeah.
But
awesome.
Yeah, that was mine.
All right, I may have to do that BGG thing next time because I feel like I just sort of fly off the cuff here. I'm like, well, this is a hidden gem. No one's really talking about this, so that's how I approach it. I'm just like, whatever. I went more by feel, I guess, rather than a BGG ranking.
That's valid.
So, with that out of the way,
sometimes I go purely by mouth feel.
Yeah, it is
of the games. Just how
they hidden gem. Let's start off with our number 10. Chris, what do you got for us, friend?
Number 10 I think does kind of qualify as a hidden gem. Is the least hidden of the hidden gems, I suppose, because it's a re-implementation of a system. I think. Get it up on the screen, Ruel, to make sure I'm talking about it correctly. Okay. I think I pick
number
this
10
one
is Astro Knights.
That's the one I thought.
Okay.
But I forgot. So I'm gonna ask you to do that every time. No, I've forgotten them because they are so hidden, right? They're so out of mind.
Exactly, out of mind, out of sight.
Let's keep going. I picked Astro Knights because this is the re-implementation of Aeon's End. Aeon's End is a really sort of beloved system. It's had about 9 expansions at this point, and so Astro Knights has come into the scene. Astro Knights now has an expansion as well, and they're expanding the system. But I think it takes the core element of Aeon's End, and it does a couple really nice things with it that have made me want to keep both Astro Knights and Aeon's End in my collection. Like, they're different enough, I think, to warrant playing with both because of the feel. I find Astro Knights to be a little bit lighter, a little bit easier, and the main difference is the rotating card market. In Aeon's End, you can just get a really weird card market if you choose 9 random cards, and they may help you or it may not. And here, you're kind of always playing with the same decks, and those same sort of 6 decks of cards where you have access to purchase 6 cards into your deck, and then when you remove one of them, a brand new card will show up. So it is this sort of revolving market that is organized by category, and I think that's really fun and a significant enough take on the system to warrant Astro Knights existing. Some people also like the sci-fi theme a little bit more too, which is fun. It depends if you like sci-fi or fantasy. But I think it's like a really neat new application of the system, and I have liked seeing it exist, and I've enjoyed playing with it as well. I think my preferences always skew towards a little bit harder. And so I'll always skew towards Aeon's End because I do believe it is a bit harder because you can give yourself a bad board. Like, you can give yourself a bad market of cards that don't synergize and like try to figure it out. But I think there's something really great about the streamlined nature of Astro Knights, and the setup time is less with Astro Knights. And I think as they create more content for it, I think the complexity might even deepen a little bit in that regard too. So I like seeing both exist, and I think Astronauts is easily passed over because people are like, well, it's just Aeon's End, right? It's Aeon's End exists. It's a re-theme. It's a reskin, and I think it isn't, but I think it is its own unique thing, and I like that it exists. So that's why I wanted to put on the list and talk about.
Yeah, I know Richard and you both are like the biggest proponents of this game, and I'm very, very curious. I recently got a copy. I have not opened it yet, but because you guys speak so highly of it, I can't wait to play it. Is there like, I don't know, as far as someone that's for someone that hasn't played Astronauts, would you recommend it over Aeon's End?
It depends. It depends on your preferences. If you like a little less, if you like having a game that is more sort of inherently balanced out of the box, that you don't have to look up setups for, what cards should I use, then I think Astronauts is a better pick. If you like something with a little bit more edge to it with your co-op, I think then Aeon's End. That's what I would go between the two. Just because I did find Astronauts to be pretty easy. But I also have had a lot of experience with really bad combinations of cards. Like when I played Aeon's End Legacy, we played it incorrectly. Like it was my first time playing Aeon's End. We played it incorrectly, and we accidentally played on super duper hard mode the whole time, because there are these events that pop up and they have counters on them. It's like, in 3 turns, like this thing will activate. But we made it activate every time 3 times.
No.
We won about 50% of our games in the Legacy, and I feel so good about that win rate. Looking back, but we were really like concerned about like balancing things and the card markets, and if you got like a bad card market that wasn't curated, you'd just be wrecked. But in Astronauts, I find it is a little bit more friendly and a little bit easier to table because of that, and potentially easier to get people interested in the system. So that's what I would say.
That's really cool. I love games that you like you say, they're easier to get to the table, and I feel like this one would be the one that's a lot easier than Aeon's End. So very cool. I cannot wait to crack open my copy. And Ray, I know you're such a big cooperative player. I'm sure you're looking forward to it as well.
I think you're muted a bit there, Ray. Ray, you might still be muted just on your end.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm just yapping.
Honestly,
it was the bleep button because we started talking about co-op games. And we knew that we had to mute Ray, or else she would go off saying some really intense things.
No, I was just saying I discovered last episode that I have tucked deep away. I have some occasional love for co-op games, but this one doesn't quite seem like my jam, but I can see why you like it.
Yeah, nice. Okay, let's talk about something that is more your jam, Ray, with our number 9.
Yeah, so my number 9 is a game called Retrograde, which we were talking about roll and writes during the pre-show. If you want to see my half-baked hot take on roll and writes, this is a real-time roll and write, which I love when weird combinations get weirdly combined. With an arcade, like a retro gaming arcade theme. And if you haven't noticed in my background behind me, I love retro games. Outside of board gaming, my second biggest collecting hobby is collecting old retro games. I have a whole Twitch channel dedicated to playing these games. I love it. So thematically, I'm already on board. And this is exactly what it sounds like. It is a real-time roll and write game. It's basically you are going to be all at once rolling a collection of dice that's kind of re-rolling them like Yahtzee, right? You can select ones to re-roll as many times as you want. And when you have a selection of dice that you like, you can grab cards from the center of the table, and those will allow you to blast droids you have on your little roll and write sheet. There's a fun little spatial puzzle where you have to shoot droids that are adjacent to each other. And that's pretty much it. It's a nice, simple, I love the chaos of this game. Some of those cards have fun power-ups on them. My favorite thing is that when you're ready for the next round, there's this rule where you shake the dice really loudly to indicate that you're ready, and you wait forever, like, come on, we're ready. Everyone's shaking their dice. It's obnoxious, and I love it. And that's pretty much it. It's just, it's chaos. I think it's a cool combination of mechanics. It's themed really well. It's got this the different sheets that you have look sort of like Astro blasters or whatever. And yeah, that's Retrograde. I don't have a ton to say about it. I just think it's a really clever combination of mechanics. It's very clean, and it's a duality I've never seen before.
I've never heard of this game, Ray, and I totally want to play it.
Ruel, it's real-time Yahtzee.
I know, this is
you gotta
awesome.
try
I've never
it.
heard of it either,
Yeah.
Ray. That means it's a hidden gem.
This is
hey,
my jam.
I did the thing.
Oh my gosh,
Ruel, we got to get you a copy.
Please.
I can hook you up.
This
You would
looks
love
fantastic. And it reminds me of the game, the retro game is Space Invaders, right? That's like a 70s video game. And they actually had a real Space Invaders game. It was also roll and write, and it was not good. It was
no.
Yeah,
well, this one is good.
And this looks fantastic. I love the real-time element. And anything, Ray, that where there's an element of being annoying with like shaking dice or whatever, I'm all
love
for
it.
It reminds me of
it.
One of my favorite annoying things is Magic Maze, when you have the little token that you slam on the table to tell someone, hey, hurry up, it's your turn. I love that. So
yeah, the do something pawn.
The do something pawn, that's right. Oh, this looks fantastic.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing this.
Yeah.
This I definitely need a copy of this. This is awesome.
We'll have to hook you up because it's basically the same concept, right? You've got these dice that have the droids on them, and you're re-rolling them as fast as you can until you get a combination that you like, and then you're racing to grab a card from the center. And then if you're like the last person, you get a certain number of re-rolls, and then it's over. So it's Yahtzee, but just more chaotic and ridiculous with a really cool theme. So
that is
I'm actually shocked you hadn't heard of it before.
Yeah,
but I'm glad to be the one to introduce it to you.
This is so cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to play this. This is great. Okay, so let's move on to something a little different that I put on the list, hidden gem. That this designer, he is a favorite of the shows. We actually have had him on the show, Dr. Steve Finn. The game is our number 8, Alpujarras. Now, some people say Alpujarras. I'm saying Alpujarras. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but that's how I'm going to pronounce it. This is a classic Steve Finn game where it's a Euro game, but distilled down to like about a 30 to 45 minute game. And this is there's Richard, they're talking about the game there, and he's actually going off of Kimberly's playthrough. This is a really excellent Euro game that you can play in about 45 minutes. At its heart, it's a pick up and deliver game, which I'm surprised Richard liked it so much, because it is pick up and deliver, but I guess when I really thought about it, it's more of a worker placement action selection game where you're doing the classic, remember that game Tokaido, where whoever's in last place will take it's their turn. That's how this works. You're going along the track on the outside there, and whoever's in the last spot will get to move their token to whatever spot they want, take that action, and then the next player behind gets to go. So you can totally skip spaces. You try not to, because you want to, get as much, be as efficient as you can with your actions. But what you try to do is you are fruit farmers, and you're trying to collect the fruits and deliver them to people who have the different orders, and fulfill those orders for the most points. And what's really neat is the way they introduce the fruits to the different fields. It's a thing called irrigation. So the irrigation, you come into there and you reveal what the next fruit is and where it's going to go, and then you're trying to time your deliveries to go there at the right time. So timing has a lot to do with it. And again, it's a really simple game. Not simple game, but it's really easy to understand and get to the table. We were just talking about that, games that are easy to get to the table, but I was like really surprised, like, wow, there's a lot more going on here than I thought. And I find that true of a lot of Steve Finn's designs, like Floriferous or Herbaceous, like very simple turns, but all of a sudden it's like, oh, I need to think a little bit more than I expected to. And I love that about his games. And that's why this hidden gem, which I don't know if it's the name that was off-putting, or maybe it's another farming game, whatever. But folks, don't let this one go by. This is a fantastic game. Check it out. It's our number 8, Alpujarras from Steve Finn.
Great pick. I love that Tokaido mechanic, and I haven't really seen it re-implemented in a lot of other ways. So that automatically pulls me in. I love anything that sort of messes with player order like that. Sounds super interesting.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
I want to love that mechanic, but I just feel like I dislike so many games that use it.
Really?
Okay, I say so many. It's 2. It's Tokaido.
You don't like Tokaido?
You don't like Tokaido?
No. I can play Tokaido at 4 players with the Crossroads expansion. That's the only the only thing I can do.
I do like that Crossroads expansion. Agreed.
I don't think I've ever met someone who dislikes Tokaido. Like I know people who think it's too simple or whatever, but that's interesting take.
And then I'm not a huge fan of Patchwork as well, which uses it as well.
Oh,
but I think I know.
Just a hater.
Slight you there, but I do think I want to like it, and I think there are ways to use it innovatively, and I also think that, like, honestly, any one of Steve Finn's games could be on this list as a hidden gem, because I feel like the caliber of his games is generally quite good.
Agreed.
And they never get that sort of widespread recognition because they don't really get published like mass produced because they're just on sort of a smaller scale.
Yeah.
Right. Boutique publisher.
So true.
But,
Richard,
so really good pick, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, Richard calls him Steve Finn like the master of like 20-minute games. Like his designs that fall in that space are just always so good. And I chose this one mainly because it was published under his imprint, Finn's Games. He does a lot of stuff with Pencil First, and I feel like Pencil First has a little more reach, whereas his own publishing company doesn't really have as far reach. So, folks, go check out Alpujarras, number 8 on the list. Very, very good game. But let's move on to number 7. We're going to go back to Chris for this one. Is that right? Yes, Chris, our number 7.
That's right. And I looked it up twice while you were talking, Ruel, because I forgot about it both times. That's how hidden it is. That's how nobody knows about it. It just slips through your fingers. And this one is the Art Society, which I played at the Level Up Gaming Retreat, and it was a friggin' blast. It's a great game. This is a bidding game where you are adding paintings to your beautiful gallery. But there's always a number of restrictions as to how your paintings can be the most beautiful. Obviously, paintings that have the same color must be touching, paintings of a different color, or else it just clutters up the composition. And obviously, the frames of the paintings must be touching the same frame because it makes it more beautiful. And obviously, there's one strip where it's in the eye line of whoever looks and walks around that are going to be the most valuable paintings, because those are the ones that people are going to put their gaze upon naturally. So there's all those scoring conditions. But I really like the idea of the bidding, where if it's your turn, you get to choose how many paintings of what shapes go up. So there's always going to be, I think, 7 or like 3 more than the number of players. I don't know, some number of paintings that will be out. But if you really want a large shape painting and you can see in other people's gallery walls that they would hate that, you could essentially just take all of the large paintings and put them up for auction. But that means they're all up for auction, and so like you probably won't get them down the line. And so it's really fun in terms of figuring out, pushing your luck of, okay, I want this shape, but I'm hoping that this color comes out. And then in addition, you all have like numbers from 1 to 20, and these are one-time use bids on getting to choose who takes the first painting. And so you can put a whole bunch of great stuff out, but everybody could bid higher than you and you could not get it. And so there's a lot of fun bidding elements to this, combined with a really nice, fun puzzle that I think just works really well, and people should know about it more. It's fun.
Yeah. You were talking about bidding mechanisms. I totally thought about our conversation during the pre-show. Folks, during the pre-show, hit that extended edition, and you can find out the 3 Knizia games that we recommend people get. And we talked about bidding mechanisms. I feel like this has a little bit of Knizia influence in it, Chris. Would you call it a Knizia type influence?
I'll say yes.
Yeah. Right.
Let's give him some more accolades. He needs them.
He
needs more.
He's tough. He's under his luck right now.
Yeah. This is a game I'm dying to play. I've heard so many good things about this, but again, for whatever reason, it didn't take off. Like I thought it would. So I remember we did I think last year we did an Essen preview, and people were raving about it, and it just sort of came and went, unfortunately. But I'm glad to know it's a good game, Chris.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really solid.
I like that spatial puzzle. I love. I know it's not polyominoes, but I love anything that's spatial, and fitting stuff onto a grid kind of has that use for Odin. Whenever you're trying to like make the best use of your space, I love that.
Yeah.
I've seen this game come across my feed a bunch because I keep getting it confused for the Art Project, which was a game that we also released in 2023.
Yeah.
So my entire experience with the Art Society is going, shoot, that's not wrong one. Every time I'll be like scrubbing, I'll be like, where are they talking? When are they going to talk about the Art Project? And then I realize they talked about Art Society. So the only chip on my shoulder I have about this game is the name was too close to a game we were actively promoting at the same time.
Yeah.
And I kept getting debated on social media thinking they were talking about us, as they weren't. But it looks great. I'm glad you highlighted it, because I didn't actually really know anything about it, except for that I kept getting tricked, and it looks
I
like
kept
something
getting
I
confused
enjoy.
too. Even when I was like, oh yeah, art.
Yeah.
Well, I saw Art Society, and I was like, is that the one that I was? No, oh no, Art Project. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes that just happens where you just get bad luck as a publisher, and you happen to put out games with similar names at the same time.
And maybe that's part of the reason why it sort of, came.
Oh God, don't blame us.
Right. I mean,
we're responsible.
The op just really tanked it. The op. I saw Ray going around.
Boy. I
saw these attack ads. I saw so many attack ads that were like, "Hey,
oh no,
you think you want to play the Art Society? No, wait, did I get it wrong? Yeah, no, okay, I did get it right.
The SEO. Oh no.
Sponsored by the Art Project.
Nice. Let's move on before we get in any more trouble. Number 6, Ray, what do you got for us?
So my number 6 is a game called Smug Owls. This is a riddle answering game, and I initially completely wrote it off because I thought it was just like an apples to apples game. I tend to really not like apples to apples clones or any sort of judge decides games. I think they're king-makey and annoying. This, however, is really clever. I will preface by saying I don't love the king making. I don't love that one person just says, this is my favorite, and that person gets points. That aside, is a great game. I think it's really clever. I put this on this list because the deck of cards that you use in this is so clever. So the mechanic is basically you, as you see in that setup, you flip over 3 cards, and it will magically make a relatively coherent riddle. I have yet to find a riddle where I'm like, I can't think of anything to answer this. So you'll flip over 3 cards, and it might be like, what rises before it breaks, right? And then everyone in real time has to think of an answer to that, and you put your hand in the middle when you have an answer. And the one thing I like, the one twist on the judge decides, you got your answer, Chris? Do you have an answer?
Oh yeah, I got my answer.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll get to it in a second.
That was me getting an answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about this is that if you're the last person, or if you're the last person to put your hand in, you become the judge. That's one thing that I do like about it. If you just can't think of anything, you sort of just default to being the judge, which I think is nice.
Oh, that's fun.
Chris,
that's great.
Yeah, Chris, do you have an answer to what rises before it breaks?
I do, but do you have an answer, Ray?
Yeah, I have one.
Do you? Is it the same one? I don't know.
I have a fever.
Mine is bread.
Oh, bread is great. And so Chris would say bread. I would say a fever. And then Ruel, if Ruel's our judge, would decide which one he thought was the best answer to the riddle, and then we would get points. That's pretty much it. But I really do. There's something about the cards that they manage to always have, again, a coherent riddle. And it is, you feel clever. You feel clever coming up with an answer to it. And I think that's really fun. Right? You're like, oh, it
I just felt very clever.
Itch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then I felt even more clever when you picked a different one that was equally good.
Yeah. I've just found through playing this game that it actually is really satisfying answering the riddles. We don't really play for points. It's just fun to just be the person who just came up with the most clever, most accurate answer. So it's a fun end of the night party game. And that's Smug Owls. And also I think the art is really cute. It's got this old timey cartoon style to it. Really small box, really small footprint. So you really can't go wrong with it. Even if you don't like that kind of apples to apples style, which admittedly I don't. I just think that this magic deck of riddles is really well constructed and is very fun to race your other friends to come up with a legitimate answer.
Yeah, that's so clever. I just to think about having those cards and they always come up with a clever riddle. That's neat, and I don't see. So I'm the same way, Ray. I'm not really a fan of those type of apples to apples games, whatever. But yeah, having that deck of cards like that, I think it's a game changer, literally. So that sounds cool. I would totally play this. It looks fun. Yeah,
it's actually like really well thought out. I've yet to come across a combination where someone can't think of something that makes some amount of sense. So,
right.
Yeah, if you like those kind of brain teasers, that kind of stuff, Smug Owls is great. It's like $15.
Oh,
go for it.
There it is. Hidden gem, folks.
Pretty
for
good.
Under $20.
It's a real hidden gem too, because I'd never heard of it.
There we go. I'm 2 for 2. Let's go.
That's right. 2 for 2. Well done, Ray.
Good.
Okay.
And in terms of board game geek rankings, I've been sitting around like the 2,000 area, and Smug Owls is like 12,000.
Hey, there we go.
Alpujarras is 10,000 as well.
Wow. What about Retrograde? How far was Retrograde? Do you have
Retrograde? I'll look that up. Yeah,
because that's another one I had no idea about, and I'm super excited.
Retrograde is 14,000.
Wow, Ray going deep. This is awesome.
These are hidden. Ray. Me, I'm not hidden at all. I'm a friggin'
You're right
little
there.
idiot.
I'm
Okay.
just out in the open, just waving in the breeze.
Exactly. Let's move on to our number 5. This is back to me. This is a game that was I felt like it was fairly popular on Kickstarter, but I really enjoy this game. I think it's awesome. I'm just going to tell you right now, it's our number 5, Age of Comics: The Golden Years. This is a worker placement game, and the theme is what drew me to this right off the bat. I'm a comic geek back in the day, and this game is set in the 1940s, 50s U.S. Whereas the golden age of comics, when all the classics, Superman, Spider-Man, all of them, around that time where they're being invented and being published. And in this game, you are a company. I don't know if it was a public company, but a company where you're publishing comic books. And so, of course, you're going to have to hire writers. You're going to have to hire artists. You're going to have to decide what genre you want to do. Is it the superhero genre? Are they war comics? Are they, all kinds of different genres that are available? And what you're doing is hiring, and then you do the actions, and you gather a tableau, and the tableau of the comics that you're publishing, they're going to help you earn the money, because that's what you want to do, is earn the most money, of course. There's one genre right there that Kimberly just showed, the romance genre as well. You could specialize in some of them, and then what you're going to do is on the right side of that track, if you see there, you're going out in the city, and you're making sales. And that's where this game gets really interesting. It's got a little spatial puzzle to it, because you're trying to be as efficient as possible to, make sure that you can hit all the sales that are connected to your type of comic books, your genres and whatnot. It's so clever. And I think they did such a wonderful job of really incorporating the theme in this game. The art is on point. They literally look like the old comic styles. Now, it's the style of those comics. They couldn't actually get the licenses, of course, of the old Marvel or DC or whatever. And these even predate some of those. But it's so cool. And the Kickstarter edition, of course, it's got metal coins. It's got these really nice upgraded tokens, and it just plays beautifully. It's I would call it a classic worker placement game with that nice little spatial puzzle of trying to figure out where in the city you want to go to make your deliveries of the comics and whatnot. And if you love comics, I mean, this is the one. Now, there was a game that recently came out called Comic Hunters, or that was all the rage.
Hunters.
Yeah, all the rage at this Gen Con. That is a terrific game. But this one, if you're looking for more of a deeper, medium weight Euro style game, this is the one for you, folks. It's our number 5, Age of Comics: The Golden Years.
Yeah, these are two of my favorite mechanics. Some sort of spatial puzzle and worker placement. It sounds awesome. I've never heard of this, so good job on the deep cut. It sounds perfect for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
unfortunately, I have heard of it, Ruel, because it was on Kickstarter. So I did hear, but I remember. I'm glad that you like it. Like, I haven't played it. I just remember thinking it looked neat when I reviewed it, like did the crowdfunding countdown. But yeah, that's great that you like it. And this is also 3,035.
Okay,
so better than mine in terms of the hidden gems.
There it is. Yeah, Age of Comics.
You're still okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Chris. I also want to say I got to do a paid preview of it, I think 2 years ago with the prototype. The prototype was fine, but then getting the actual production copy, mind blowing. It was so.
Was that in that video? Was that final production or was that prototype?
I think that was prototype. Like what Kimberly,
Okay.
It might have been the same. We might have shared the same copy. Now that I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean the prototype looked terrific. But yeah, the actual components for the final were just out of this world. Fantastic.
Nice.
So yeah, Age of Comics: The Golden Years. Let's move on to our number 4, which I believe is back to Chris. Yes.
Back to me. It is nice. Yeah, you can see that it is the same production copy because Ruel scrawled on every single piece. Ruel was here.
I was.
That's how you know if you're ever getting a production copy and it was sent and it says that on it. Ruel used it as well.
Sorry, folks.
That's Ruel likes to. Yeah, it's wild. Now that I've said something, you'll see it pop up in so many different videos. It's something you don't notice until like you're aware, and then you can't stop seeing it.
It's an Easter egg, folks.
Our number 4 is a 5 out of 5 game for me. This game is fantastic. Ooh. The only reason why I was like, I don't know if this game is like completely amazing, and I didn't give it like seal of best of the year, drop all the pieces on my head feeling, but like it really, I think, is deserving of that. This game is so good. This is City of the Great Machine, and I only docked it because I was like, I don't know how this will translate both in solo and in co-op. And then everybody in the comments was like, no, that's my
I
favorite way to
remember
play.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, great. That's fantastic. I really, really love this game. It is so fun. It's something that, again, I thought would look good, but then just over delivered on the expectations. One player plays the Great Machine, the other player plays the Revolutionaries. There are always 3 Revolutionaries. So if there's one person, they play all 3. If there's 3 people on a team, you just play one. And you have to commit to whatever you're doing as the Revolutionaries, and then the Great Machine, or wherever you're going at least, and then the Great Machine will get to respond, and then you reveal where you've gone. So it's kind of like a little hide and seek game. People call it program movement, and it's kind of programming because you decide what you're doing beforehand, and then someone else has to respond. But it is such a fun mind game between the machine and the Revolutionaries. It's so exciting of seeing an open space on the board and being like, man, they could really do some damage if they went over there. But do they think I'm going to push a bunch of guards into that area? Or should I focus my attention on somewhere else? Should I redistribute everything? It's a really fun back and forth, and I love it at 2 players because it's a real mind game, and I love it at 4 players because the team is trying desperately to communicate their plans to each other while not giving away information. They'll be like, okay, I think you should you go? Yeah, and then I'll do, and they're just like gesturing on cards. And then meanwhile, the Great Machine is like, yes. Hello, what is it you're saying? My spies are hearing whispers in the streets. And that feeling that comes about really makes it like a top experience for me. Love this game. It's rated 2266 on Board Game Geek.
Okay.
And I think that's too low. Again, lower than the 2. This is my lowest. All of mine were like 2022. I didn't go that far down. I started scrolling past 1,000, and when I found 3 that I liked, I stopped. Is pretty much what happened. That's how I made my list. But as soon as I saw City of the Great Machine, I was like, okay, perfect, awesome, love it. This is my number 1. Can't wait to talk about it. Really highly recommend this game.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, this is another one that I remember hearing a lot about, and everyone that's played it that I know, they love it, and for whatever reason, it just didn't take off to be like the next big thing. So I'm not really sure why, but I've heard nothing but good things. I have not played it yet, but I'm looking forward to one of these days, Chris. It looks wonderful.
Yeah.
I remember you talking about it last year. It was the first time I'd heard about it. It was on the show when you were talking about it. And I just love that asymmetric, that one versus many. It's such an underutilized mechanic, and doing that well truly does create one of like the coolest feelings in board that you can find in board games. Oh, love it.
Yeah,
when it's executed well. Oof.
Yeah,
probably my favorite one versus many that I've ever played. I think I would say that.
And now
for sure.
I'm thinking maybe that might be part of the reason why it didn't take off, that one versus many, because I don't know if it's maybe a lot of people don't like that. I know a friend of mine complained about one versus many back in the day because he always ended up being the one because it was his game and he wanted to be part of the many.
No.
Yeah, so
I love being the one.
I do
it's
too.
Like it's the only time I'll play co-op games. It's like, but is there like an evil traitor that I can be that's chasing all of you? Because then I'm so in. No, I get it. I get that it's inherently less beginner friendly. Anything that has any asymmetry to it is less beginner friendly. If you have to explain different rules to different people, that automatically will like balloon the teach and make it a little bit less. And sometimes people don't like having that adversarial, like someone at the table. It's not just like, oh, we're fighting against the game's AI. It's like, oh, we're fighting against Joe and he's coming to get us.
Right.
I love it. I think it creates such a fun, unique feeling. I have yet to play this, but it's a mechanic that I love. And hearing you talk about it, I'd forgotten about it. And now that you've brought it up again, I do really want to track down a copy because I love one versus many.
Yeah, it's funny how some games just you hear a ton about and they're really hyped up, and then just all of a sudden they just fall off for whatever reasons. But
part of me,
there are
was
too
this
many
a
games.
Kickstarter game?
Is that what it is?
Or was this just a regular?
Yeah. This was a Kickstarter.
I feel like
it was a Kickstarter.
It depends, but I feel like part of it is like the Kickstarter lifestyle, right? Like, or the lifespan, right? A lot of hype during the campaign, and then it can sometimes be hard to get excitement for a retail release of a Kickstarter because people are like, haven't I seen this already? It's hard. I wonder if that plays into it a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good
point.
point.
For sure. Yeah, I'm always so confused in terms of where the life cycle these things are, because I spent so much time like looking at Kickstarters, and then a couple years later it starts hitting and like people start talking about it. I'm like, oh, okay. I already feel like I've done my exploration like way back. And especially if you're doing like a preview too. They're like, oh no, I played this and I played it a bunch and I haven't played it since. You know what I mean? Because then you're on to the next thing. And
totally.
Yeah.
And that,
I feel like there's
that could
also
be like years, right? It could be years between when you played that prototype or whatever, the early preview, and then by the time it comes out in retail, it's like, wow, this is like years ago. Crazy.
Yeah, I was gonna say two things kind of related to that. One, I think a lot of people had Kickstarter fatigue, like post 2020. There was a lot of Kickstarter fatigue, and then also because of something that happened in 2020, a lot of games were delayed. I feel like the lifespan of a Kickstarter is weird now. We're kind of figuring out where we settle back in, because so many games either launched or were about to fulfill, and then the shipping crisis happened, and then it's years. Like I literally during this game just got an email about my mycology Kickstarter that I sort of got I backed like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Things like that happen, and I think it's, as a marketer, I think it's, I mean, I don't work in Kickstarter games anymore, but I can imagine if I still was, like, how do you line up the Kickstarter hype versus the retailer hype when all of our barometers are kind of messed up right now? So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to like look back on in 5 years and see how that how the shipping crisis affected both just the life cycle. I keep wanting to say life cycle of a Kickstarter game, and how we approach that Kickstarter versus retail marketing. If it's like affected consumer expectations and stuff. I don't know. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Great points, Ray. Great points.
Yeah, but I love having someone on the show who's deep into Kickstarter, because I don't really pay that much attention to Kickstarter anymore. So I love, like, a lot of the games you bring up are Kickstarter releases that if you're not in that world, if you're not checking Kickstarter weekly, you can miss them entirely. So
absolutely. We were talking.
And there's so much. There's so much.
Yeah. We were talking about during the extended edition, folks, about a Kickstarter that I totally forgot was out there. And if you want to know which one it was, go check out that link down below for the extended edition of the show. And why don't we move on to our number 3? We'll go back to Ray for this one.
Yeah, I'm already yapping. I'll yap some more. This is probably the least hidden of all of them. And I think when I said this list in, I was like, it's okay if you don't want to include it, because I understand. Because I believe Shut Up and Sit Down did talk about it. So you can come from me in the comments that it's not that hidden, but it is under 1,000, so it meets Chris's criteria. And I feel like I haven't seen that many other channels talk about it. And that's Moon. This is a game that I heavily considered putting as like beating out Darwin's Journey for Game of the Year, but I just hadn't played it enough. And oh my God, I've played this game so much in 2024 since we did our Game of the Year list. So this is a pick and pass drafting game about space capitalism. And first of all, I love a pick and pass draft. You guys know that Seven Wonders is like my baby. I love that game. No matter how many times I've played it, no matter how many better games come out, how dated that game is, I love it. It's the game that introduced me to pick and pass drafting, and it's a mechanic that I love. It scratches some weird gambling itch in my brain of, is this card going to make it back to me? I don't know what it is. One of my favorite mechanics. This, I think, has, I wouldn't say replaced Seven Wonders in my collection, because I have a lot of nostalgia for that game, but it's just different. It just does that, but different and better in a lot of ways. So basically, you're just building out a little space base, right? And you've got 2 different types of cards. Typically, you've got yellow and blue. Yellow is like resource production, or backwards. Blue is resource production. Yellow is like amenities that you have, right? Like restaurants and stuff. And then you have a couple of special cards that come in the form of pink and gray cards. And you're picking, you're passing, you're drafting. Couple things that I love about this game. It has some collective achievements that you can reach that really affect and influence the way that you play the game. You might be the first person to get like 5 water production or something. Just really nice. Gives you something to focus towards. Sometimes that analysis paralysis and pick and pass drafting is overwhelming. Like those achievements gives me something to strive for. There's this rover mechanic, those little white rovers that you see at the bottom of the screen. Those you can send to someone else's card, park it, and gain access to their resource or their flag. That makes it less punishing than Seven Wonders. If you get bookended by 2 people who don't have what you need in Seven Wonders, it can be really hard by that 3rd age to catch up. If you just haven't built the engine you need to, it can be really punishing. The rovers in Moon really fix that for me. And then also there are these special cards, the ones that they're actually conveniently showing on screen right now, these little first expedition cards. These are cards that every hand has, but they don't get played. They're like a special action card that you can use while you have that hand. Some of them are really weird and really brutal, and they make every game feel different. So each hand kind of has obviously the cards in it that you're drafting, but also this special card that affects whoever has that hand, what they can do. Very interesting. It's just really clean. I find this genre so addicting. I was initially turned off by the art. As you guys know, space games are not really an aesthetic I enjoy, but there's something kind of goofy about this. If you look at these cards, it's bad in a fun way, which I don't know how else to describe it. It's all kind of goofy and weird if you look closely at them. And I also like how clean the art is. A lot of the thing that often turns me off from space games is I can find them so busy. They're so like, they're trying so hard to look futuristic and cool that I'm like, my eyes are bleeding. What am I looking at? This is really clean. Yeah, I love it. Just really solid pick and pass drafting game. I've played this a ton this year. I haven't played Seven Wonders at all. Just been playing a lot of Moon. Really enjoy it.
Nice. I do like the art in this, Ray. You're right. It's very almost like minimalist, I guess. For
totally.
For a sci-fi game, and it was really it was neat to see this on your list because I know you're not a sci-fi game fan. So to see this is really wonderful. I'll admit,
it took me by surprise.
I totally did not know about this game either. This one totally flew under my radar. I didn't know this existed.
Hey.
So this looks great. And if it's a Seven Wonder style game, I'm all in. Yeah, I love those type of pick and pass games.
Well, this one still beat all of my picks, Ray. It's 2692, so it's even further down on the list. I looked into Moon a bunch when it was on Kickstarter, so but I thought it looked cool. I'm glad you enjoy it. And I don't know if you mentioned or if I missed it. Have you played Villagers a bunch, or have you played Villagers at all?
No,
you have not.
No,
okay, yeah,
I haven't.
I know it's the same designer, same like sort of art style, and I was wondering if you'd played the two. But now I will wonder until that happens.
Nice.
That's all I got for you.
I love it.
Great contribution.
Let's go to number 2. We're almost at the end of the list here, folks. Rich will be joining us for his thoughts after this one, and also the number 1 on the list. But first, I'm going to tell you all about number 2. This is a game that I really, really enjoyed. I think this is just a really chill, nice, relaxing game. It's our number 2. It is called Starry Night Sky. And this is a game by one of my favorite designers, Emma Larkins. You may know her from a little game called Abandon All Artichokes. And she does these wonderful games. I always feel like her games really just distill or strip down mechanics to their essence. And this one, I really enjoy this because it is you're grabbing stars out of a bag. So, and you're placing them. It's almost, I don't want to call it area control, but it's also a goal fulfillments. So on your turn, you're just going in a little bag and grabbing these different stars or different colors, and you're going exploring in the constellations. You're trying to complete constellations by getting the right combination of stars. You have your own little supply that you have on your player board, and you move these cute little telescopes around, and you'll move a telescope and you're going to place stars there. And before every turn, you actually draw an objective card. So it's really cool. It's like continually moving. I really like that about this game. You always have new objectives to pull from, and you're just moving along, and it's a race to a certain number of points. And then at the end, when the end triggers, whoever has the most points wins. Something about this, I really appreciate Emma's designs for how clean they are. And again, a theme that I have in a lot of the games here that we've talked about are games that are easy to get to the table. And Starry Night Sky is one of them. I loved playing this game, 2 players, 3 players, and 4 players. I think I was trying to mess around with like a solo mode as well, but that may not have worked. But it's still a wonderful game. Really neat to see Buffalo Games, a publisher, get into this. They are primarily known for puzzles, like jigsaw puzzles. So to get a game like this, instead of just typical cardboard pieces, they actually upped it up and upped the ante a little bit. And the stars are like little plastic translucent stars, are really neat. And same with the little telescopes and stuff. So just a little shout out to them for the nice little uptick in production value, and still at a accessible price as well. So that's our number 2, Starry Night Sky.
Yeah, this looks great. Well, I love Emma Larkins as well as a designer, and somehow totally missed this one. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know what it.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, this is I
Hidden
feel like
gem.
Yeah, it is. It is a total hidden gem. I think with About an Artichokes, she had done that game with Game Rights, so Game Rights
Yeah.
pretty well known. And I think Buffalo Games.
Got
This is
that
one of their
reach.
first like forays into board games. They're mainly just literally just jigsaw puzzles. They have a ton of them, and I think this might have been maybe their second or third board game. So maybe it didn't have quite the promotional whatnot behind it, but it's wonderful, folks, and I definitely recommend checking out sort of like set collection style game with beautiful components, Starry Night Sky. Okay.
And I've got good news for you, Ruel. This
Yes.
one's closer to Ray's numbers at 8,790.
Good pick.
Okay. Wow.
Deep cut. Love it.
We're all over
Yeah.
the place. This is great.
Yeah.
Well, that's our 10 through 2. We got to talk to Richard now and find out what the number one is. He's going to share some thoughts on our picks as well. Richard, take it away.
Okay, thank you, gang. This is a fantastic list. First of all, Chris, let me highly agree with you on Astronauts. I think you and me were the two biggest boosters of this game in the industry, although sadly, as you probably already mentioned, it lives in the shadow of Aeon's End, even though it does deserve to stand in the light on its own. And Chris, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this. I maybe should zip my lip. I think I'll just say, watch this space. Because there is something coming that has not been announced yet that, well, I think you and I are going to continue to be very, very excited about. Anyway, though, Ray, Retrograde, I really would love to try this sometime. I love the theme. Ruel, Alpujarras. This might be, Steve Finn's second, maybe third greatest design of all time. And certainly, just a masterstroke. I love it to pieces. I think it's great. Chris, Art Society is fantastic, not only for its gameplay, but for its art as well. It should have gotten more nods for just how pretty it is with such a wide variety of art on all those tiles. And then Smug Owls. Ray, never even heard of it. That's why I always love you being here to introduce me to things that come out of left field. And of course, a list of hidden gems. A few of them should surprise me. Ruel, Age of Comics, yeah. Kimberly, I think, did a run-through for it on the channel. It was excellent. Such a sharp thematic Euro. City of the Great Machine. Chris, if you and I ever play a game together, it's got to be this. I would so like to try it. And then Ray, Moon. Yeah, you know what? I love, what are the other games from Sinister Fish? Villagers and Streets. Those are both excellent games. So I expect Moon must be excellent as well. But yeah, these games just don't really seem to stand out. Maybe it's because the very stark and austere, severe aesthetic to them. I don't know. And then Ruel, Starry Night Sky. This is a lovely little gateway game. I would recommend it for first-time gamers. But if you like the same subject matter of observing constellations in the Starry Night Sky, but you would like a heavier, crunchier game from 2023, folks should check out Nebula. There's a bonus right there for you. But anyway, all that out of the way, I've now got to talk about our number one on the list. This game made my best games of 2023. It was in my top 30. I think it's absolutely fantastic. It is very, very difficult to get your hands on, I'm sorry to say. It is Aiye. Aiye. Oh, I keep forgetting how to pronounce it. Oh, hold on. Aiye. 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 Still, I'm not quite sure, but at least the publisher, the Brazilian publisher, has actually put a pronunciation guide on the Board Game Geek page after I've complained about this so many times in roundups and best of the year lists, because I've talked about Aiye several times. And for folks who are listening instead of watching, it's spelled A-I-Y-E if you want to go looking for it. Publishers, do not name your game something that's completely unpronounceable in pretty much every language there is, because it just ensures that word of mouth fundamentally cannot spread about your game. Anyway, A-I-Y-E. Why do I think this game is so fantastic? This is a very, very sharp and novel approach to one of the greatest board game mechanisms in human history, the Mancala. The idea of, hey, pick up a bunch of seeds, move them as a group, drop them off from one to the other, and then activate the last thing, in your area. Moncalas were revitalized a few years ago by Stefan Feld. Gosh, almost a decade ago now, when he brought out Trajan. Even though Moncalas have been with us for centuries, even millennia, I think. Isn't it like one of the oldest known games that we've actually found copies of in ancient Roman sites or something like that? Anyway, though. This, even though Moncalas have been around that long, the developers here have come up with a new way for us to play a Moncala game, and it's awesome. The Moncala is actually this row of cards. Each player has one, and basically below each column is a bunch of seeds or these discs. You pick one column and then you start dropping the discs off one after another, going to the right, wrapping around. So this is kind of, even though it's straight line, you might as well consider it a circular thing. And then whatever's the last thing you drop, that's what you activate. So Pablo here on the right. Oh, I should say, I've not done a video for this yet. I'm using Mesa Secreta, Secret Table, a Brazilian board game channel, who unfortunately speak in Portuguese, but they do a good job of showing what the game looks like. Pablo here is probably going to activate this single disc over there so that he can, just move it one to the right and then fire off his biggest, most powerful column in the rondelle, and activate a bunch of things. But as you can see, there's a bunch of cards up there. Tarugo is trying to figure out where he's going to add a new card to make a different column in his Moncala more powerful. And wow, when he eventually activates, he's going to, what has he got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, that's nice. He's activated this big thing, and then he's going to activate it again, 2 back to back, which is going to generate a lot more stuff for him. He's got a nice little engine he's built for himself, and then he's got a few other ones that are smaller and less impactful, whereas Pablo is a bit more spread out. So, this is a Moncala game where we are constantly changing and morphing our actual Moncala space by buying cards from the display, adding them to our Moncalas, either paying big premiums to add them to existing columns or creating new columns, which we never want to activate because they only have one card, so they won't be very good. But a lot of the powers you can activate on these different things allows you to combine different columns. So you can move one of these singles into this triple. And while it would normally cost a lot to just buy a card and put it on the floor, it's free to move them. So in this game, you're constantly shrinking and growing your Moncalas, trying to create the best combination of abilities. So, and on top of that, it's a really great looking game with an Afrofuturistic look to it, and it's just a blast to play. Tons of replayability built in. Every time you play, you're going to have different puzzles to solve, and it's just fantastic. And the reason it's a hidden gem, the reason it's overlooked, is because it is only available in Brazil. And there's several Brazilian channels that have covered it because everybody who's played it loves it and raves about it, but you just can't get your hands on it. Now, if you are in North America anyway, there are a couple of outlets. I recall, Chris, there's one in Canada. And then I know there's a friendly local game store in Portland that also ships. They're getting regular shipments of the game in every once in a while. And then they just pretty much just disappear immediately because as soon as they're in, everybody buys them up and gets them shipped all over the place. So you might want to go to the forums for Aiye in AIYE in Board Game Geek and find the how can I get this game thread, and you can get more information about these places that are getting it shipped out of Brazil, because right now it is very, very difficult to get, and that is a crying shame. I do not understand why other publishers have not picked this up. Ray, I do not understand why other publishers have not picked this up. Maybe it's a little bit too crunchy for the op, quite frankly, but it's absolutely brilliant. I think it is criminally overlooked because it just has not been picked up for wider distribution. But this is one of the best games of 2023, which for my taste is the greatest year ever in modern board games. So I highly recommend, number one on our list, AIYE. And folks, I'm not done yet. I've given you one. I've got 9 more 2023 hidden gems to talk about. If you want to hear about them, jump over to the extended edition of this show. There's a link for it down in the show notes, and I will keep going because I've got 9 more great hidden gems to tell you about. Okay, but in the meantime, back to the gang.
Aiye looks fantastic, folks. I have not heard of the game. Obviously, a Brazilian publisher. We need to get on that and bring that on over. Richard was suggesting.
Apparently, by we, he means me. I have to get on it. Apparently, this is my job. Oh man, I would love it if we could pick this up. That game looks beautiful. I love the art. Oh my god, it looks like cool. It has kind of like an indie video game, kind of like a style you don't see in board games that you really only see in like video games. It's so stunning.
Agreed.
Oh my goodness.
It looks fantastic.
Oh my gosh.
And I love the whole Mancala mechanism, and it almost looks like a Mancala / tableau builder. It looks really neat. But hey, folks, that's our top 10 hidden gems of 2023. Thanks for tuning in. Like Richard said, be sure to click on the links below for the extended edition, where we're going to talk about a bunch more games that were hidden gems from that year. And want to thank our sponsor as well, Phalanx Games. Appreciate them sponsoring this episode of the R&R Show. Thanks again for watching. Talk to you soon. So long. Bye-bye.